Hey guys, it's Simon here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today we're going to be doing our wrap-up video for the month of September. Hopefully the video is not too bad. I do have a little bit of an issue with my voice today, but hopefully it doesn't turn out too badly. But yeah, let's start with what I've been watching, and it hasn't been much, but everything I've watched I feel is very, very important to me. It has been stuff that has really been meaningful to me, right? So first of all, One Piece live action. I finished watching it with my roommates at the beginning of the month. I really enjoyed it, had a lot of fun with it. I am planning on watching it at least one more time this year. I don't know if it's gonna be with my family during Thanksgiving or by myself. And then I will do the final live action One Piece video debate thing that I want to do about it, because I wanted to be able to have multiple perspectives. On one hand, I want the perspective of someone that really enjoyed it initially, and then on rewatches, I want to know what perspective that would be from someone that enjoyed it initially. And then I also want to have the perspective of someone that knows One Piece but isn't that interested in it, which is one of my roommates. Someone that is into anime but not necessarily One Piece, and what their interest was in the show, which is my other roommate. And then people that are completely not into anime, which is my parents, and what they think about it. And so I wanted to have all of these perspectives before I make that video, right? So yeah, but the One Piece live action was generally pretty great. I kind of struggled to place it specifically on a number scale. I would say it hovers around 8, whether that is an 8.5 or maybe even a 9 or like a 7.5. I'm not really sure, because sometimes I feel like it's like top tier, it's basically a 10. And then other times I feel like, damn, this is kind of like a 5. And it really depends on what's happening, how it's going, and specifically what type of situation we're having. Like the 2 episodes that focus on Syrup Village somehow ended up with the same feelings that I had when I read Syrup Village in the manga, which is this is taking too long and this is kind of boring compared to everything else that happens, right? So yeah. I also find that the way that they ended the show was phenomenal. I think it was wonderful because on one hand, it allows you to slip right into the Logtown arc of the manga if you want to read it from there, or it allows you to continue the series, which they are going to do. So it's pretty great that we have this ability to do that. And of course, the beautiful way in which they've ended it means that we can start next season on Logtown, which is a much better start point than it is an end point. Even though it is technically a transitional space, right? It is kind of a liminal space between the prologue of the story and the actual story of One Piece, right? So, yeah, I really liked it. I've been watching Wheel of Time Season 2, significantly better than Season 1. I'm very excited to see the finale next week. And in general, I think I like it as a show. As an adaptation, I think it struggles a lot. And when they do manage to adapt things, even if it's not perfectly straight out of a book, they manage to do it so well that it makes me upset that they clearly decided not to actually adapt things. And they wanted to just use the name of the characters and kind of like the veneer of Wheel of Time to tell their own story, which is kind of annoying, because they could have just made a show that was inspired by Wheel of Time the same way that Once Upon a Time was inspired by Fables, right? But they didn't choose to do that. They chose to just take the IP, take the existing fan base that would be attached to it, and then kind of squander all of the goodwill from the fan base that could have, because realistically, the Wheel of Time show could have been like the most successful thing that came out since, you know, season 4 or 5 of Game of Thrones, right? But it wasn't. And I think a lot of the issues are because they adapted it poorly. But that's my personal issues. I'm not even that big of a fan of the Wheel of Time. Like, I love the Wheel of Time, but it's not something I grew up with. It's not something that I breeze through. It's something that I read when I have time, and that I like quite a bit. But it is not like my defining fandom, right? Like, it's not like Matt at the Dusty Wheel or Daniel Green, right? Like, it is not my cornerstone of fandom. It is just what I like. And so it's kind of disappointing, but also I understand some of the, you know, things that show fans have to say about it, because sometimes it is better. It is just like generally I think the story that Robert Jordan wrote is significantly better than anything they showed in the show. And it kind of sucks that they did any of the stuff they did in the show that doesn't correlate with anything, right? But some of it is good. Like Leandrin's storyline is pretty great, even though they kind of finished it off too quickly, in my opinion. But, you know, it is what it is. Then I watched the last episode of My Adventures with Superman. It was a good show, though I do want to say that I didn't love the transition from cutesy, you know, romantic slice of life into more normal, you know, superhero stuff, because I think they could have really milked the slice of life stuff a little bit more, like a whole season of that, and then have the second season be a transition into a proper superhero show, right? Instead, they did kind of this weird thing where they kind of time skipped at the last episode, and it feels like there's a lot of character development and a lot of things that happened in the relationship of the characters that we just didn't get to see. And so I do think it did kind of squander its ending, even though the first 7 or 8 episodes were phenomenal and baller, right? So it kind of does suck in that sense, but overall I liked it. I thought it was good. And I've been watching Ahsoka season 1. Episode 5 was amazing. Anakin Skywalker showing up was wonderful. As a massive fan of the Clone Wars when I was a kid, as something that is more or less a defining characteristic of my fandom, I love that episode. In terms of Rebels, though, I'm not really all that interested. I like it in the sense that it's Star Wars, so I don't mind watching it. But on the other hand, it was something that really wasn't in my age range when I was a kid. I think I was kind of transitioning away from cartoon shows or from American, you know, kids television, you know, Disney Plus and or Disney Channel and Toon Disney and stuff like that, into like CW, like teenager shows. And so Rebels kind of came a little bit too late for me to enjoy it. And I never came back to it because I think I just wasn't really mature enough to be able to interact with it without feeling that kind of like sensation that it was too childish. Maybe that has changed and I can watch it now, but I really don't have an interest in it because I more or less know what happens in the show, right? So that kind of sucks. It's kind of one of those things where sometimes you just had to be there for things to make sense and for them to be enjoyable for you, but it is what it is, right? But the show, Ahsoka, is really, really good. I don't like Sabine's character because I'm not attached to her, but the villains in the show are great. I'm really interested in them. Balon is amazing. So, yeah. And finally, I've been watching the first season of The Big Bang Theory. I watched the first 13 episodes, so I'm almost done with it. And a few things I have to mention. One of them was that I forgot that they were so short. 30-minute episodes is kind of crazy. There's only 20 minutes of actual show, and they go by so fast. And it's actually very genuinely hilarious. And so much of it is reflected in things that I see and do every day. Like, you know, sitting around the couch, watching something, and then kind of going into this weird diatribe about like the science behind it. Sounds ridiculous, but I live with a bunch of engineers, and most of my friends are engineers, and my dad's an engineer, my sister's an engineer. It is a real thing that happens, and it's ridiculous, and we're obsessive, and it's weird, but it's so nice that they managed to convey it so well. And I find a lot of humor in it. I also find some of the things to be a little bit too concerning. Specifically, they're concerning because they're like 25-year-olds. You know, if they were like a teenager, I might be okay with it because, you know, teenage boys are going to be concerning sometimes, right? They're going to do things that are definitely icky and irksome, like Wolowitz does. But the fact that Wolowitz is like a 25-year-old, it's kind of weird when he does some stuff, right? But in general, I really like the show. I love Penny's character. She reminds me of my mom in the sense that she's like a social butterfly with like a big interest in real people and real emotions. And she somehow ends up stuck with a bunch of engineers. Like, that is my house. That is, you know, how my mom and my dad and my sister and I interact. She just doesn't understand what the fuck we're saying, but she tolerates it and she is willing to engage with it because she knows that we care about it. And I like that. And I really like that character trait from Penny. And I actually really like her relationship with Sheldon a lot. I really find the way that she interacts with him to be the most appealing and interesting out of the group. I know she eventually ends up with Leonard, but I don't know. right now, I like the way that she interacts with Sheldon a lot. And I think that's maybe because they're the better actors out of the five. I'm not really sure, but I've been really, really enjoying it. It's been such a comfortable show to watch. I've been needing some comfort this week because I had a big exam in the beginning of the week. And this morning I actually did my GRE because I want to do a master's in business, right? So I needed to study a lot, and I needed a way to unwind that wouldn't take up too much time. And this week that happened to be watching Big Bang Theory, and it managed to appeal very much. It was something that made me really happy, and that I was very excited to watch, and it was something that helped me a lot this week. So I'm very happy about that. I really appreciate the show. There's definitely problems with it. I'm not going to say there aren't, but it became the most popular sitcom for a reason, right? And hopefully I get to watch more of it. I will probably eventually lose interest in it if I binge watch all of it. So I'll probably give myself time between seasons to kind of let my interest in it die down a little bit and then come back so that I don't get burnt out, because that does happen a lot. I do have this kind of like new hobby energy. Like when I first get upset, like really into something, I get obsessed with it, and then I burn out on it, right? So hopefully that doesn't happen with the show, because I really appreciate it right now. So yeah. Otherwise, I didn't really get to watch anything else. Like I said, I've been studying a lot this month, and I haven't really had time to read all that much. Even though I really wanted to, it's just not been in the cards, right? So yeah, but that is for what I've been watching. In terms of what I didn't read, the list is going to be quite big actually, because like I said, I didn't really get too much time to read. And then when I did, I'd rather watch something, because I had been spending so much time reading screens and reading textbooks that I wasn't really interested in doing that anymore, right? So I didn't read The Lord of Goblins. I didn't read Cole or Flame of Steel or finish Tarzan or finish Battle Chasers, even though I did read some of it. I didn't finish reading The Lord of Chaos, although I did advance some. I think I advanced about 10 chapters, so that's good. I did not get to read The Dauntless, so I'm going to leave this for next year, for May. I did not get to finish Conan the Cimmerian, which kind of sucks, because I really wanted to at least finish that this month to join in with the Cimmerian September crew, but I was not able to. But I did get to watch a lot of great Cimmerian September YouTubers and people that did videos on it for YouTube that are great. Michael K. Vaughan, Steve Donahue, Roy likes to read books, or Roy reads books, I think is his name, and a bunch of other people did great stuff. I really, really enjoyed everyone watching everyone that interacted with the tag, right? So yeah, I didn't get to read any of Superman Earth 1, but I think I'm going to read that next month. I did start reading Robotech, but I actually DNF'd it, which is something I rarely do. But I just didn't find myself interested after reading like a third of it. And I didn't really want to be wasting my time and going into this reading slump in order to try to finish this. So I just decided to DNF it. I'm going to get rid of it this month at the end of the, I'm going to get rid of it next month after I do my video for, the pruning the collection, the kind of Q3 kind of part of the channel, right? So yeah, I did not get to read No Guns Life, which I'm kind of sad about, but I think it's actually much better for me to plan it out, find good stopping points, and then start the project reading that series earlier than May next year for Sci-Fi May, and maybe start doing it in April, so that when May comes, I get to review all of it in one go, right? So hopefully I'll do that. I'm not really sure. I did not get to read either of the Infinite Dendrogram novels that I wanted, which kind of sucks, but it's not too bad. Those are easy to read. I just have to read them some other time. And I realized that Solo Leveling number 8 is actually the last book in the series, and I'm not really ready to let it go yet. So I'm going to wait a little bit. I might read it this month. I might not. I'm not really sure, but I think I'm going to let it be for now. I'm going to leave it alone. And when I finish, when I'm ready to finish the series, I will, and then I'll review it. And then I'll talk about the whole series, completely in one video, because I love it and I think it's really, really great. So yeah, that's it for what I didn't read. Now, in terms of what I did read, it's not that much actually. So let's start with the comic books, and let me talk about the comic books that I don't have in my collection that I read. So there's Superman Annual, It was interesting. I didn't really care too much about the stories in it, but it was fine. Doomsday Special was a really cool art piece, but I didn't really care about the story, mostly because I don't have an attachment to Doomsday or Supergirl. But Martian Manhunter showing up was pretty cool. I also read Action Comics 1056, and the first 4 parts of Gehenna, which is a short story collection, or actually it was a story that was divided into the short story collections of Image, celebrating their 35th year or something. And I got those online. Obviously, I didn't buy them, but I did get them online, and I've just been reading those specific stories, and I hope that they publish it physically because I really want to buy it, and I really want to own it. It's really, really good. So I definitely recommend you guys check that out. But chasing down all of these was going to be impossible, so I just didn't bother. That's why I downloaded them, off the internet, because I wanted to read it, but I didn't really want to have to do the difficult thing and try to track down a bunch of things and be scalped out of my mind, right? For something that's not really that interesting to me. Okay, so moving on to single issue comic books, we have Red Sonja number 3, which is pretty good. Batman, Catwoman, Gotham War Prelude, which I skim read, and I wasn't that interested, but the art style for the last portion of the book was really, really good. However, the stuff that was happening there was kind of off for me, because it's like Catwoman flirting with Red Hood, and it doesn't sound like something she would do at all, especially because their age gap is so huge. Now, in comic books, that might not be important because the characters are shown in like nebulous age ranges, but I'm pretty sure the standard age for Catwoman is the same as Bruce, and he's like in his 40s. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to have 25-year-old children. And Red Hood is like in his 20s. And 40 and 20, maybe it's not that bad. It depends on your preferences for age gaps, but it just doesn't work for me that she would be interested in him, right? So, yeah, then we have Hexagon Bridge. I really like this. It was really interesting. It was about this new dimension they find, and they use people, mappers, into it, and then these mappers get in trouble because they're chased by these 2 robot AI things, and it's really, really interesting. However, this was clearly, I think it's like a European-sized comic that was downsized into a normal issue, and I'm not really sure why they did that. Probably to cut down on price, but it makes the story look worse because the artwork is very beautiful. It's a lot of large panels, and you can't appreciate them if they're this big when they could be like that big, right? So it kind of sucks, but it is what it is. Blue Beetle number 1, I thought this was a great beginning to the story. I'm very happy to continue reading it, and I was very excited by the end. And also, I really connected with some of the aspects here because Jaime is Hispanic. I think he's Mexican, but also he's dealing with the fact that the Horizon, the aliens that are good show up, and they're being mistreated by people. And these people happen to be people like him, Hispanic people that have experienced this before. And he has to deal with that and deal with the fact that people are going to be horrible to each other, and it's because they don't understand each other. And it's really, really interesting. I found it to be really meaningful. Here's Werewolf by Night. Great story, really good use of color, very similar to the show, but I don't understand why it got released in September. There should have been like a miniseries in October. Then we have No One number 5. It was pretty good. I am kind of getting tired of the sitting around talking kind of thing, so I hope that the superhero aspect of it does kick up here soon. But it's good. Heat Seeker number 3. The last one is number 4, and I can't wait. I was very excited, but I was very confused by the ending. So, yeah. Sacrificers number 2. Really good stuff. I was really excited by the ending of this because it seems like one of the characters that everyone thought was wrong might actually be right. But then that might not actually be the case. So I'm very curious to see what happens. Then we have Sheena number 1. Not the best opening, but definitely not the worst that I've read. It's much better than most Vampirella stories I've read. And it's definitely better than some of the Sonja stories that I've read recently. So it's pretty good. And it's definitely better than Barbarella too. So yeah. Wonder Woman number 1. Amazing start. I really enjoyed it. However, it does feel a bit preachy, but not in a very negative sense. It only feels a little bit preachy because I think that is the point of it. And sometimes, I think there's ways to do it right. And I think Tom King does do it right by making you actually care about the character in the way that, things are happening, which is much better than most other people do. So it is what it is. Green Arrow number 4, really good stuff. I really, really liked it. I enjoyed the artwork here a lot. However, some of the faces kind of took a while to get used to. Dead Lucky number 9, good stuff here. Nothing too serious, but I did enjoy the ending. And Death Dealer number 15, this is the end of the story, and I do find it to be lackluster. And also, I think that the art style is progressively worse throughout the series, and I'm not really sure what happened. It seems like the artist, the original one, who I can't remember, and the new one, Medellin, don't have the same kind of style, and of course that is going to be the case, but Medellin didn't really try to match the original style, or he did, but failed, and the colorist feels a little bit different as well, even though I'm pretty sure they were the same the whole time. And this makes this downgrade of the quality of the artwork, and then a downgrade in the quality of the storytelling to end up with a very mediocre ending. And I'm very unhappy about it. But I can't entirely fault the issue because I'm pretty sure there was problems behind the scenes with the team. So I'm not really sure what it was, but I do feel like there was some issues, and I'm not really sure what it was. Maybe they weren't really ready for such a big undertaking, because 15 issues of a comic and having them be cool and interesting and have extras and tie-ins does feel pretty difficult to do, especially when Opus has a huge tendency to delay books and have issues with getting books out. So it is what it is. Then Mighty Morphin Power Rangers number 30, or 30th anniversary number 1 shot. It's just one and done. And this was pretty good. I liked it. Most of the stories were nice. The one I didn't care about was the one made by the Pink Ranger from the original series. I just didn't care about what she was writing. And I actually also didn't understand what the point of it was, because it doesn't make sense. So yeah, I didn't like it. I'm not really interested. MMPR is definitely the least interesting of the stories to me. I'm much more of a fan of Ninja Steel, or sorry, not Ninja Steel, of Ninja Storm, Dino Thunder, and Wild Force. So then we have Mech Cadet U, Volume 1 of 3. It was great. I really liked it. I'm very happy with this. I'm definitely going to try to buy the collected edition that collects all of the issues, because I really enjoyed it. And I think it's a much better book than this. However, I do hope that they do a hardcover version at some point. I'll buy that because I really liked it. So yeah, and then we have God Country, which is one of my favorite books that I've read in the last couple months. It's really, really great. I love it. It deals with fatherhood and with sacrifice. And it has really cool space alien god things, and it's in Texas, and I like everything about this worked for me, and I liked it, and it was great, and it was wonderful. The art style is not my favorite, but it works really, really well for what it's trying to convey, and the colors are great. Things look so interesting, and I like that a lot. I really enjoyed this book. Donny Cates really is a great writer, and I hope the best for him now that he has had an accident and he's in recovery, and hopefully he'll get back on the saddle and write some more comic books. And I'm curious to see how they're going to change, because he had a really important life-altering situation, and I'm curious to see how that's going to change his storytelling, right? So, yeah, that's it for the comic books. Let's look at the books that I read. And that would actually only just be one book. I didn't really read anything else. And that would be Conan the Cimmerian, or The Coming of Conan the Cimmerian. Book 1, I read, let's see, 216 pages. So about half of it, actually, almost 2/3 of the actual like important stuff, the stuff that is, the stories. Everything else, there's like 100 pages of miscellanea here that is interesting, but it's not necessarily important to Cimmerian September. All of this is miscellanea. And I am going to read it eventually. I probably will do a review for that part of the story too, for that part of the book. But I do want to focus only on the stories, and I'll try to continue reading this through October. So yeah, that's it for that. Finally, the manga here, Komi Can't Communicate number 26. I really enjoyed it. I loved it. I think it's great. Komi continues to be wonderful. I have no issues with it. I understand. I understand that some people do, because it does take a long time. But at the same time, the artwork's fantastic. The covers are beautiful, and the story is wholesome and wonderful. And you don't have to pick all of it up in one go. You don't have to binge read it. You can just enjoy a little bit at a time and have fun with it and go back to great, nice, nostalgic memories, right? So, yeah. Although maybe it depends on your high school experience. I personally found my high school experience to be really great. It's something that I look back fondly on, and sometimes I miss, because a lot of friends that I had that I thought I was going to have forever actually ended up being friends that I couldn't hold onto forever. Sometimes because I couldn't personally make the effort to continue to talk to them, and sometimes because life just doesn't let you have that, right? But reading Komi lets me connect with a lot of them, or lets me connect with the memories I have of them, and that makes me feel really, really good. It makes me feel very happy. And it makes me remember a lot of friends that I had. So I really like Komi personally for that sense, right? But I understand that, if you had a horrible high school relationship or a horrible high school experience, you might not want to relive it, and that's totally fine. Here's Tsugumi Project number 2. I really enjoyed this. I like your style a lot, and I'm very interested in the relationship that develops between Tsugumi, or the girl, and Leon. So, yeah. Boys Abyss number 2. I love it. It's so weird and creepy and fucked up, but it's also so enjoyable and interesting. And it's dark and it sucks, but it's good. I like it. It definitely has like adult John Green vibes. I don't know. John Green is like the baseline that I understand that people are gonna know that it's a romance thing. It's gonna be kind of fucked up at the end, and someone's gonna die. And it's very childish and melodramatic, especially the ones that are popular. I personally think Looking for Alaska is the best one of John Green's novels, but it does kind of have the same vibe. It is about finding yourself and struggling with reality and struggling with love and struggling with your feelings, and then maybe realizing, hey, things are fucked up, but maybe you can still work through them, right? But like more adult. Like Boys Abyss is definitely for adults, for people that are willing to deal with dark material and not going to be super affected by it, or they're going to be affected by it, but they're not going to let it dictate how they go about their own lives, right? So yeah. Satomi's Beauty and the Feast, number 9. I'm very happy about this book, except for one chapter that I just didn't like. I thought it was bad. I mentioned it before. It's the one where the girls talk about dick measuring, and I don't think that the issue is the dick measuring. Like, I don't find that to be problematic, or maybe it is problematic, but I don't find it offensive, because, there's a lot of manga and things that talk about women's sizes. Like, the issue is not that. The issue is that it just doesn't fit into this story, because the story is not about these girls. It's about Shuko and Yamato. And the chapter feels like it came out of nowhere. That's my issue with it. It's not really the material. It's the inclusion in a story that doesn't really feel like it matches that tone. It just was like whiplash. So, yeah. And then we have Soul Leveling number 7. And this one finally finishes the Jeju Island arc. And I'm curious to see how it goes from here, because I'm pretty sure at this point the story starts to pick up pace in the manga, and there are 13 volumes of the manga, I think. So we're halfway there officially, but also there's a lot more story. Like the Jeju Island arc is only the beginning of the really important stuff in Solo Leveling. So I'm curious to see how they're going to handle everything else. But I think that's everything I read and watched this month. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys read and watched and what you loved this month. And thank you guys very much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and see you guys later.